you found yourself in a Land Rover instructional video, but don't worry, this works for everything. So if you're looking to learn how to retrim just about anything, stay tuned. Thanks, cameraman assistant. What you're going to do the snap thing? You're going to do the action, yeah? You haven't got a mic today, so nobody can hear you. Sorry guys, Ian's making this really difficult. Ian stood behind the camera and watching me whilst I'm trying to do another instructional video. Stop it, Ian, and go and do some bloody work. Trying to do another instructional video. Now the compressor's going off. This is just, and I forgot to record before I started it. So, sorry guys, you're starting halfway through a job again. I'm just going to start reupholstering the headlining on Red Rover, which is over here. I'm going to upholster this because the original headlinings have a tendency to sag. What I'm doing is using a anthracite grey 4-way stretch carpet, which you might be able to see there. It's just a dark carpet that looks quite nice. What I'm doing is I'm spraying, I'll start again. I've stripped all of the material off, all of the original material off, which is a foam-backed material, and the foam gets stuck to the board. So you have to spend a bit of time cleaning all the board off as well with a wire brush and, you know, just get all the foam off. So what you're left with is a nice clean board. What I then do is spray the surface with a trim fix adhesive, and this is a contact adhesive, which means you're not using it as a wet glue compound. You're spraying the surface with the glue, both surfaces, and then once they've fully dried, you then put them together. So you spray the carpet and the board, let it cure, and then you put them together. And what it does is it's contacting itself, and then that is what is producing the adhesion. So I'm just going to spray this board, and then I'll show you a little bit about pushing it into all the gaps and how to make it look like a nice job, because you can make this look terrible and in 2 weeks time it will sag again. What I actually do with this, because coming out of an aerosol can, it doesn't actually put that much glue on the surface. So I've already done one very light coat, and the places to pay attention to, and I'll change the camera around in a minute, are the creases where the material folds into a crease. You just need to make sure you've got a good level of glue cover. And it's not normally the board that's the problem, it's the actual carpet itself, because what happens is the first layer soaks into the carpet, and then there's not an awful lot of it left on the surface. So the recesses, especially in the front one, are things like this, and then that curve there, you want to make sure that you've got a good glue cover. And what happens is that tacks off quite quickly. So it goes on wet, and then within, I don't know, maybe a couple of minutes, it's tack dry, which is what we're looking for. So I've done one coat on the carpet itself, and I don't know if you can see that it started white, and now you can see the carpet again. So I'll wait for that to dry, give that a few minutes, and then I'm going to go over it with the second coat, and then that's ready to stick down, and I'll show you that part. I'm just going to apply the second layer of glue now to the carpet. So the board has already had 2 layers. And let that go off, flash off for a couple of minutes. So now that this is all flashed off, and I am ready to start, what I'm going to do is fold this over, and if you're doing this on your own, fold this over and just rest it, but don't press anything down, because it won't initially bond if you just let it lie. And I'll show you why in a second. You want that to fall quite naturally and as straight as possible, and fall into this gap, because you don't want to be stretching it too far. And then all I'll do, just to make it easier, fold that edge away as you start from the middle and work your way out. We've already done this side, as you can see. So what I tend to do is find the recesses and just gently press the material before sending it home So excuse me. And all you can do if you haven't pressed it, look, is just lift it up to form the gap a bit nicer. And I haven't got a very good base for this today. I've just put it on a couple of stands, but you can manipulate it a little bit, even if you have pushed it down and you've made a mistake. The beauty of this material, and this is just 4-way stretch carpet, there's hundreds of suppliers on lots of different websites, and you can actually even buy it on eBay. Is the 4-way stretch carpet is as in the name, it will stretch in any direction, and it's very, very malleable. All you want to do is apply a decent amount of pressure around these recesses. Just make sure you cover all of the material with your hand to ensure that it has been pressed properly. And you do want to leave yourself plenty of overlap. So that you can fold it around the back, which I will show you now. So once you've got to that point there, you flip the board over and then trim it up. So on this, you either want to get yourself a decent pair of upholstery scissors or a blade or just about anything really. What I'm going to do is trim about 2 inches away from the board, because that part, the 2 inches that we leave, is going to be folded over and then used to secure it on the back side, and then we'll cut these holes out afterwards. So with the exact same method as before, we're going to spray all the edges and make sure that the carpet is covered. I've just noticed there's a bit of a dry edge there which the carpet isn't sticking to, so that's a good example that the carpet has no glue on it, but the board does. So that's why it's not sticking. So I'm going to also include that in this run. We're going to glue all the edges up, and I'll show you what I've learned over the years is that this isn't the final trim, because if you fold these edges up, they're going to be, one, difficult to fold up, and they're going to bunch up. So if you trim the corners really quite close, it makes life much easier when it comes to folding it all round. And then if you have an inward corner, trim into it with a few cuts. So we have an outward corner there, and these corners should be a little bit less material. And then all that's going to happen is it make it easier for you to fold all of that round. So I'm going to run around and do that quickly, trim up all my corners, and then it'll be ready for glue. Sprayed all of that and cut all my edges. I'm just going to do this while I remember. All I did was re-glue the dry part. We're then going to fold all the edges round. So start over here. I'll just initially place it all. It's the exact same principle as the front side, except you don't have to worry quite as much about how this looks, because you will never see it again if you've done your job right with the glue. I have just cut all of the interior light rear view mirror holes at this stage because it's easier to identify where they are from the back. And if you're silly like me, you could set your working height this low, so it really reminds you how old you're getting and how sore your back is. Probably worth noting as well, a little bit of safety advice, Andrew's top safety advice. Make sure that where you're working with this glue is well ventilated. Because years ago when I was building my camper van, I used this product in the back and I very nearly passed out. Made me feel incredibly woozy for a minute. Not in a bad way. But don't sniff glue, kids. Sniffing glue's bad. Stay in school. And that is the front section of the roof lining done, so I'll move on to the middle and the rear sections. So guys, this one is a little bit different because this was trimmed in a Alcantara effect material that's actually a failed product. I don't want to say it's Chinese, but it could be Chinese. I'll show you in a minute, but on the back of it is a foam backing, similar to the original OEM Land Rover stuff. It's a lovely feeling material, feels really high end, but the problem is it has come away in the creases, and the reason for that is that the foam backing has actually failed. So I'm going to strip this off. So this will kind of give you an idea of what it would be like to strip an original one off, except the glue is obviously newer. This was done about 6 weeks ago, and it's just started to creep away in all the gaps, and in no time at all it would look awful. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to replace it with a 4-way stretch carpet, which has no backing material. So just going to basically undo all of the work that I did and show you what's left on the board. What you can see, this is the foam backing, and I'm a bit of I don't like foam, it's not my favourite feel. But the areas where the foam has come off the material are where the foam that's left on the board is still good. So on all the areas that you can see that the foam has actually come away from the board, that's the areas that it had failed. So annoyingly, it's left quite a lot on there. So I'm going to clean as much of that off as I can with a wire brush and everything else and try and get all that back to how I need to be. But you can see on the board, so all of those areas that the foam is no longer on the board are the areas that the glue has failed. And all it is, it must be some kind of manufacturing fault. We're currently dealing with the supplier of the product who said they're going to solve it for us. So hopefully going to send us out a new roll soon, which would be nice because it's a lovely material to use and we've had great success with it in the past. This is more or less what you'd be left with if you strip down an original roof liner. You'd have all the foam left on the board still, so you need to try and get as much of that off as possible. So now I've got most of this foam off. That's a more than acceptable surface. That is the instructional video on how to retrim a Land Rover roof lining. This method works for just about anything, actually, thinking about it. This doesn't need to be restricted to just a Land Rover roof lining. If you've got any kind of flat surface or board or anything like that that you want to retrim, exactly the same method. So this instructional video is actually an instructional video on how to trim just about anything with a stretch material, with something that isn't stretch, with leather. I mean, obviously there's some other tools involved if you're going to use leathers, because you need to heat the leather up to get it to form to the shapes. But yeah, this method will work for almost anything. Camper vans, you know, boat interiors, anything you can think of. So I'm going to get this roof lining fitted. There is one more piece of the Land Rover roof lining that I'll do, and then we're going to get it fitted to the Red 110.